Hello and welcome back to Rise and Align. We are your hosts, Demi and
Halie. Today we're diving into a really fun topic. This is a tool that Demi and I both use for spiritual and personal growth reasons, and it is tarot. This is something that we've both been using for years now, I would say, and I feel like it has been a really good way to use it in our spiritual practices. So I'm really curious how you use tarot and what tarot means to you.
I would say it's such a wonderful way to stay aligned and to check in with yourself. And if you've ever been intimidated by tarot, or if you've ever wondered about it or been curious about, what is it? I think it depends on how you personally view it. And to me, I believe that tarot is like messages from source. And, everything comes down to everything is made up of energy. So, however you're feeling in a moment is going to determine what cards might pop out of the deck or what cards you might pull out of the deck. And for me, it has always been extremely resonant. Whatever I pull usually relates to whatever I'm going through in life at that moment. It's something I need to hear. It's something I need to ponder, something I need to ask myself. And it always helps me to listen to my intuition. It is almost like a guide through life in a way for me. It really helps me tap back into, okay, like, how do I feel about this situation? And the questions that it asks are so aligned, I guess, with what I need to be asking myself in that moment. And it's funny because people will be like, the tarot cards personally victimized me.
It does feel like that sometimes,
like
honestly.
But and it's also really interesting. Like, people always think, like, I shouldn't say always. A lot of people look at it as like a negative thing, and they often say like there are negative cards, like there are evil cards or bad cards, like death or the devil. And I just don't see that perspective of it at all. Like, even the quote unquote negative, like the tower, like you don't want to get the tower. That means you got chaos in your life. But it's actually really introspective, and it has you look at yourself in a really healthy way, I think.
I totally agree with everything that you said. I feel like tarot is just a really good a practice to reflect on your life. And when you pull your cards, it's a really good way. I like to think of it as a ritual. You sit down and have this dedicated time to yourself where you can reflect on your life and ponder what you want out of life, and maybe things that you want to change about life. And when you're pulling your cards, and if you're using your guidebook, there's always like good insights in there and questions, but you can also use it in more of an intuitive way. But I think that it's a really good way to just start to be more reflective, and you can use it with other practices as well. You can use it with your meditation practice. You can use it with a journaling practice. If you're wanting to get into journaling, I think tarot is a good pairing with that because it gives you things to journal about in a way. But for me, tarot is connecting to my intuition. It's connecting to my higher self. It's connecting to source energy. And I think that you can gain a lot of information about yourself or perspectives on the world that you may not have thought about if you didn't take the time to like sit down and it is kind of like tarot kind of calls you out. It brings attention to things that maybe you're avoiding or you don't realize.
Like, actually, this book I have here this is the original, quote unquote, the original tarot deck. Is the Rider-Waite deck, right? And this book is the Rider-Waite deck. And on the bottom of it says, cards for divination, wisdom, and self-discovery. And I think that's so good because for me, that's really what they are. It's wisdom and self-discovery. And that has helped me so much in my journey, just to self-reflect and, discover more things about myself that maybe I was hiding from me even.
And it's a great way to find clarity about a situation. If you sit down and you want to ask like a question about a certain scenario or something that you're going through, and you'll pull a card and whatever you pull is what you're meant to pull and what you're meant to be guided towards. So I think that, whatever that card tells you can give you clarity about the situation that you're going through, or honestly, it could give you advice about a situation, or, just open yourself up to a new perspective about something.
And I also want to talk about, so tarot cards, as far as we know, and there are lots of different sources that do say different things, but they started around the 1400s in Italy. And I was looking into, because some of my decks, they all come with books, and some of my decks have books that have guidance towards like rules around the tarot, and other sources say like there are no rules in tarot. Like when they were initially invented, there were no rules at all. So a lot of people would be like, well, you're not supposed to buy your own tarot deck. Somebody's supposed to give you a tarot deck, or you're supposed to do this, or you're not supposed to do that. I really think you should just follow your intuition in that. Like,
absolutely.
I don't think that tarot is this like evil voodoo future telling written in stone thing. I think that tarot respects the fact that the only constant is change. And so it's just guidance and advice that can help you. I have never had any kind of negative experience with tarot ever. I've read tarot for other people, and it's always helped them develop and expand and align. And many times we've had like emotional breakthroughs through tarot card readings, and I've had that, within myself as well. So I want to say that if you're interested in tarot, like you do what your heart says, like follow it. And what I was told, the reason that I ever got into tarot, actually, I went to like this tarot card meetup, and it was so long ago. It was like 2008, I think. And these ladies said that you are meant to go physically to a store that has tarot and look through the decks and like touch them and see which one speaks to you and like which one calls to you. And that I so deeply agree with. So my first deck I ever got was this Arthurian legend deck from Scotland. And if you know me at all, I'm obsessed with Scotland, and that deck has been so meaningful for me. It's been so helpful for me, and I still use it to this day. So I think that that's really how you should choose your tarot, is like what speaks to you.
Yes. Yeah, I think I love the idea of like having a tarot deck gifted to you, and that being the one that you use, but realistically, like that's not going to happen for most people,
Yeah.
And I do agree, like your tarot deck should be an intuitive thing, and you have to have a connection with your tarot deck. Like that might sound silly, but you have to feel aligned with the tarot deck in order to get the most from it, in order to open your energy up to this deck. Like you have to be aligned with it, and that'll help you better get more from it, honestly. Like I've had some decks that I've tried to work with that I don't love. Like I don't love the illustrations, or just how they interpret different cards, like that it didn't align with me, and so I wouldn't use them. I'm just like, I'd rather not pull a card because it wasn't valuable.
It wasn't
to me.
resonant. Yeah.
But when you have a deck that does resonate with you, it truly is like you're getting messages from source directly to you. Like it's meant for you. It's crazy what a difference that makes, is having a deck that aligns with you. Yeah, honestly.
Yes, I completely agree. I've used other people's tarot decks too. Like sometimes there'll be ones that I love, and I'm like, ooh, let me use that again. I want to use these. But then the other times it's like, oh, it doesn't resonate. That's another thing. There are thousands, probably at least thousands of different tarot decks, and though most of them are based on the original Rider-Waite deck, they will have different meanings in them. Like they'll have different questions in them, they'll have different illustrations in them. Every deck is different.
Yeah, and there's also oracle decks, which is similar to tarot, but it's less structured, and it's less, like you said, most of them are based off this original deck. So the oracle cards you can get in different themes, or like I had one where you could pull like an affirmation every day, and there was questions that aligned with it too, that are a little more personalized towards what you're looking for, I guess. There's just so many different options out there.
Yeah, I agree. I have this one oracle set too. I brought some of my cards to show you guys. So the Wild Mystic Oracle set, my best friend did gift this to me, and I love it. And it's beautiful in gold and black and just cool. I love it. But it is really different than the tarot decks. So with the tarot decks, we have like the higher and lower powers, and the higher powers are meant to have, I guess, like a triumphant meaning. So like if you pull one higher card and two lowers, then the higher card is going to be like the overall energy of the pull. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, so do you have a favorite tarot card?
I honestly, so with all of my decks, I have yet to pull like all of the cards and like really dive into the meanings. And I use tarot in more of an intuitive way. So I'm not super knowledgeable in all the cards and what they all mean, but I always have to say that the moon is my favorite card, just because I am a Scorpio. I love the feminine energy. I love the facing the shadows, and the moon kind of shines a light on your shadows, and it's a transformative card, and I just connect with that and love that. And I usually always love the illustrations on the moon card.
Yeah,
so.
And the moon is my favorite thing.
Yeah,
so.
Same. And so if we're talking about cards,
yes,
mine is the Moon Witch deck, and so it's all about like all geared towards like the moon and stuff. So I guess that makes sense for me.
I love your deck too. I love that one. Yes. So you said, I'm not that familiar, and it's interesting because I have been reading tarot for at least 9 years, I'd say. So that's a pretty long time, especially to have one deck. And my original deck that I got, that is the Arthurian Legend deck, though it is Arthurian Legend, and though it does have Arthurian Legend illustrations, it still reflects the main cards of the Rider-Waite decks. So it still has the sun, the moon, all the same cards, right? And I have worked with that deck, like I said, for 9 years. I do use it intuitively, and this deck is specifically meant to. It says in the book, like, you should be meditating on the cards and see what comes up for you. I think that's how you should always do it, but I still look at the pages of the book no matter what deck I'm using, no matter how many times I've used it, because it's like, when you watch a movie and you watch it again and you see something different?
Yep.
It's that way. Like, you're going to perceive it differently every single time. So, don't feel intimidated by like, oh, I'm not a professional. Like, I have to use my book. I'm like, I have been doing it for so long, and I still use my books. Like, they're still really, really helpful. And even though I've been using the same deck for 9 years, like, different cards pop out. Like, I remember like 5-6 years into using the same deck, I was like, I've never even seen this card.
Yeah.
like, where did this come from?
Yes.
So I love that about tarot. I feel like I never am like, oh, I'm sick of it, I know it all. I'm always like, oh my gosh, there's a million more decks to explore. And every time I read them, it's something different.
And you're always going through something different. And also with reading the books, like, I think that's a really good way to gain a different perspective on a situation. Like, I do read the books that come with the tarot cards, of course, and there's usually like reflective questions in there, but it also makes you see a situation from a different perspective that you may not have thought of on your own.
It's so clear that tarot is such a spiritual practice to me, because a lot of the books have different guided meditations in them, different breath work in them, like other things that will help your self-development and peace, really.
And I love that you mentioned earlier that tarot is not a fortune telling device. Like, I think, some people have the perspective that tarot is dark magic, or tarot is like bad, and it is, telling fortune, and you get the death card, you're gonna die. Like, no, that's not it at all. And you also touched on the fact that the more negative cards, the death card or whatever it is, there is actually a more deep meaning to that. Like, the death card is more so about transformation, about a rebirth, letting go of what's no longer serving you. There's actually it's not so literal, It
doesn't mean you're gonna die. It's
Yeah.
usually like death to a bad habit or death to a circumstance.
Yes.
It's something that, exactly. What's no longer serving you, you're going to let go. So in a way, it's a death, like death to ego, death to this old personality, or you know what I mean? It's not you're gonna die.
Yes.
They're not like that
Right.
at all. This is a spiritual self-development thing.
It is. Yeah. So, and when you read the books that come along with it, it starts to change your perspective on it a little bit, because it dives into that more. And I have a friend, we got our tarot reading done by a professional, and she was scared, she's like, what if I get the death card? What if I get and I think that's like a common misconception. She was really nervous about that. And she did end up getting the death card pulled for her.
You attract what you fear.
Yes. And I think it ended up being a really good experience for her and changed, I think, how she looks at it. She'll probably be listening to this. And, it helps you have breakthroughs, I think.
Yeah,
especially when you start using it, like you just it pulls forth like subconscious things, I think.
Yes.
That you don't have available like all the time going on.
Or even sometimes like it does call you out. It does call you out. Like there'll be things that it says and I'm like, like deep down, I know. Okay, I know. I get it. Yes. But I didn't want to face that.
And then you just sometimes I'll pull a card and I'm like, no. So I put it back in. I shuffle it, and I pull the same card.
And it's like, oh,
no.
It's always the Tower.
Oh my gosh, it is too funny.
Yeah, no, that really happens. And on that level, I want to say, like, I personally do believe in magic. I do.
Me too.
Like, I just don't think that reality could even exist. Like, what do you mean? This whole thing is a giant magic trick. Let's be real. But
look at the sunset. It's magical.
Come on. It's different every day. But with tarot, it, for me, has been really magical. Like, so many times I've drawn cards that were like, even at the time I was like, maybe this doesn't make sense. And then a day later, I'm like, oh my God, like, how is it so accurate? Like, sometimes the things that it'll come up with, like, it might sound like, oh, that's just generalized. But it's like, no. One time I pulled this card and it said legal problems. And I was like, I don't have any legal problems. That's weird. Like, what is it talking about? I literally got served with court papers that day. And I was like, no way. Like, it's always been that insanely accurate for me and everyone else I've ever read it for.
Yeah. And again, it is connecting to like our intuition, our higher self, source. And we are one with source. So source knows, and it's just a way to communicate with source and connect with your intuition.
I think a lot of people too will use tarot or like go to tarot readings when they're like going through something, which can be great. Like, it can be really helpful, but also like you can use them anytime just to help you stay aligned. Like, I used to tarot every single day to start my journaling. Like, it was just journaling prompts for me, and it was so helpful in that way. But I've also heard people say like, some people abuse tarot and they read tarot like multiple times a day and it just takes away the meaning. And I don't really necessarily agree with that. I don't feel like you can necessarily abuse it. Like, obviously you don't want to be dependent on like the tarot cards are telling me what's going to happen in life and what to do. Like, it's not like that. But also, like, because it is a self-development tool, it's not an unhealthy thing. Like, it's not like you can abuse it like a substance, or it's not like that. It's only ever like positive and helpful.
It's a tool. It's a tool. And yeah, I that's so interesting that someone would have that perspective. I think that your practice can be whatever you want it to be. And I think, like we've talked about with yoga, tarot is adaptable to how you want it to be. You could pull it once a year, or you could just go have someone else read your tarot once, and that's fine. Or you can use it every day. You can use it, as you said, a tool for journaling. I think it's a great way to start the day, because it also encourages you to have a morning ritual. Like, you sit down, you pull your cards, you do yoga, or you read, or you just sit there for a little while and have intentional time. I think it's just a good way to have that time that you dedicate towards your growth and reflection and stuff on your life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I have to say that every time I've ever used tarot, I'm always like in a better mood afterwards. It really does help align me. It really does. It helps expand my mind a lot. So yeah, I've never had any negative experience with it. I think that where people maybe get that from is if they're like, And this is one quote unquote rule that I kind of do agree with on tarot. I don't think you should ask yes or no questions. Tarot for me is always asking advice, and I'm open to that advice, whatever that's going to be. But people will be like, yes or no, is this person going to marry me? You know, and like, of course, like that's not what tarot is for. And like, yeah, you shouldn't use it in that way. Like, you shouldn't be dependent on it. Like, well, the tarot card said this was going to happen. So like, it's in stone now. And it's not like that at all. Like, it's just more of like an intuitive, helpful tool.
So I think this is going to be helpful for people who really aren't familiar with tarot at all. What types of questions do you ask, and how do you ask those questions? Like, do you ask it in your head, or like how is that process for you, and how do you select your card?
Yeah, so I've seen so many people do this differently. Like, again, the practice is whatever you make it. For me, when I'm reading on my own, I don't say my question out loud. I just think of like a subject. Sometimes it's just like, what do I need to hear today? Like, what do I need to hear in this moment? Sometimes I will ask advice on circumstances that are happening in my life, or relationships or something like that. Like, advice towards that, not like, yes or no, are they going to marry me? like it's like, okay, what's your advice on this, right? And the way that I do my readings is I really love when the tarot cards just pop out on their own. Like, if you guys are watching the video, hopefully you will have seen that. This one just flipped out by itself. So I just shuffle through the deck, and whatever pops out on its own, and in whatever direction that it pops out. So like, say that it were upside down and I can't see the front of the card, I'll flip it over, and however it's flipped over, whether that's right side up or reversed, is the way that I believe I'm meant to read it. I also believe that, like, if this is the first card I pulled, that's the first card I'm going to read. So most of the time I'm doing like a 3-card spread, and I think that's the most common way to pull tarot cards, is a 3-card spread. There are lots of other spreads, and the decks that I have come with books that have like hundreds of spreads, and then they'll actually tell you like what each card is meaning. So like, I know in this original tarot here, it's like 1 through 5. There's a spread that's 1 through 5, and it's like, the first card is what has been happening to you recently. The second card is what's happening to you now. Third card is like advice from source. And the last card is like the overall energy of what's going to happen with the circumstance. So you can do it, you know, however you want. When I do the 3 cards, it could be past, present, and future, but I kind of just see it as like advice in general, like a story. And a lot of the times the cards that I pull will end up relating to each other. So I'm like, And I think that we might as well do a reading.
Yeah.
So I was thinking already when I started shuffling these that it'll just be like a collective reading. So if you're listening right now, you're meant to hear this, and so are we. So we'll see what comes out. Our first card is the Queen of Cups. So she is in all of the Rider-Waite decks. And then if you have a deck that isn't like this...
Oh, there she is.
There she is. But if you have a deck that isn't this, you may have cards that still relate to these cards.
7 of Cups.
Ooh, I love cups. Cups is water and hearts and fall. And that's change.
That's something that I love about tarot cards is, and with astrology, the signs, they match up with natural elements, water, fire, air, earth, and the different suits, if you want to call them, in tarot also align with fire, water, earth, and air. So very interesting.
Yes, I love that. Everything does relate, intertwine,
yes.
all of the things. Okay, so our last card was Ace of Pentacles, and it came upside down, but it's still a really happy card. So I'm excited to read the meaning of this.
And so when I pull cards, and I'm sure you do the same, when you get them, it's really important, I think, to start looking at the images. Like, what are these images showing you? What can you get from it? I feel like, colors used, and a lot of like animals and things can be symbols for things, and the numbers can have meaning. So I think, looking at these and creating meaning for certain things is helpful too, if you're doing it in an intuitive way, but also pairing that with what, the books say as well.
And I mean, because these decks, like, if you do go pick one out, I think the images will resonate with you. Like, it always, like, you can look at it and think, like, the Queen of Cups, like, she's holding up a cup. Actually, she's holding one down, too, which is balance. And she looks, like, powerful. Like, she's standing in her power. She looks confident to me. I mean, and every person might get a different perception of that image. Like, you might look at it and be like, I don't think that. But
and then and that's so interesting, because then you'll pull the message that you need from the cards.
Yes.
And every individual person will see something different, but it's because it will relate to them and be what they need to hear or see.
Yes.
So cool.
So the Queen of Cups. So this book didn't come with those tarot. So this book has a completely different image on it than those cards, but it is still the card. So what this book says for Queen of Cups is, the Queen of Cups is the most caring and compassionate of all the queens in the deck. She is emotionally aware, tender-hearted, and highly intuitive. There is no hiding your true feelings from the Queen of Cups. She will know if you're putting on a brave face. Your priority is one of deep emotional empathy when she shows up in a reading. You are loved unconditionally, and patience is a virtue to appreciate. My grandma always says that to me. And then we did pull the card upright. It says, when the Queen of Cups appears in a reading, trust your instincts and you will not go wrong. It is time to be heart-led and open to exploring your emotions. Either you or someone you are interacting with will display a good deal of patience and understanding, and this is needed here. She is a healer, so you may need to nurture yourself or someone else. Psychic abilities are heightened with her presence, so trust your intuition.
I love that.
Yay! I love that whole card. Hopefully that was resonant for you guys too, because it was for us, I think.
Yes. And if you want to reflect on that more, you can pause or write that down. And after this episode, you can, maybe use that as a journaling prompt just to kind of help yourself reflect on that and see what that means to you.
Yes. Okay, so the next card is the Seven of Cups. For me, seven's always been a lucky number. And again, cups is hearts. So there are 7 cups, and in this image, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this on the video, but he's looking at what looks like a bunch of like treasures in an antique store to me. And each of the cups has different things, and one of the cups has a heart in it.
Dragon.
And one has a dragon, one has a castle. Okay, so we love this
we
one.
need that in our future.
And then as well, in the book, there's also cups full of treasures. So I am excited.
Ooh.
The treasures of life. The Seven of Cups shows a figure who is faced with too many options. They have a choice to make, but they are crippled by indecision. This person is finding it difficult to choose because they're stuck trying to see the positive and negative in every situation, making excuses for their indecision. They may also have unrealistic expectations. See, it's calling me out.
I know, me too. I'm like, oh, okay.
Rude. You may be living with an illusion and ignoring the reality of a situation. You could be facing difficult decisions and overthinking, trying to weigh up all of the options. Or you may be overindulging or being lazy. Whichever it is, you may need to make a decision. It is time to face your options realistically and commit to your choice. Okay, that's fair. But I feel like in circumstances like this, for me, sometimes I'll focus on something and actually limit myself, not realizing that I do have so many wonderful options. And also, the right answer is always what feels the best for you. So reach for the feeling of relief and you will make the right decision.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be interesting just to compare what my tarot says about these.
Yes.
So this is coming from the Moon Witch deck. If you're watching, I have it on the screen. So we'll just see what this deck's perspective is on the Seven of Cups. So at first it says opportunities, choices, possibilities. Need to make a decision, potential, daydreaming. So upright, it says the Seven of Cups depicts a witch looking up to the heavens. There are 7 cups in the clouds, each holding an object. Some are pleasant and some are not. They are your wishes, dreams, and fears. It is a card of choices, fantasies, daydreams, and illusions. Things are not always as they seem at first glance. 7 of Cups invites you to make a decision. You cannot pursue all of your desires at the same time, so choose wisely. Weigh all the pros and cons. Go beyond the illusion of shiny objects. Seven of Cups serves as a reminder that you need to be willing to work hard if you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Direct your energy toward one thing and ground yourself. Your dreams and opportunities will remain in the clouds until you commit.
All right, I get it.
But see how they're similar. The interpretations are similar, but
super similar.
A little different at the same time. My interpretation of after reading both of these are slightly different. Like what it's pulling from my own feelings is a little bit different from each other.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I literally like yesterday posted a TikTok video, but it was one that I had filmed a long time ago and I left in my drafts. And what I said in that video was, I know that if you focus on one thing, it will become way more successful than if you're doing lots of things. And I am the queen of doing everything. And I think that it is true. Like when you really commit to one thing or one person or one whatever it is, that one thing will become so much more successful. Like it's always this concept of like the grass is greener, or maybe the next thing is going to be better, or maybe the next thing will blow up, or maybe the next thing will be easier, whatever. And it's never that way. It's always whatever you put your love and energy into will blossom.
And it's also about discipline.
Yeah.
If it's easy to give up. It's easy to say, oh, that didn't work right away, so I'm going to try something different.
Yes.
Or, and not putting in the hard work. It's easy to give up. But
it is. Commitment and persistence are a choice, and they're difficult, and they're self-discipline, and it's a form of self-love too. And it's also like with this, like I think that we are so far we've been really committed and disciplined, and we're also loving doing it, and putting all of that like good intention and love and effort and energy into it is building it into a really beautiful thing. So also thank you guys, by the way, for being here, because we've had such wonderful feedback, and we just love you guys, and we love creating this beautiful community. So the next card is Ace of Pentacles. Ace is the beginning too, which I think is notable.
And Pentacles align with the earth energy.
Yes. Okay, so in both of these depictions, there is a hand holding a star. It looks sort of like a coin. And there's actually flowers in both of mine. I want to read yours after as well. It says, the hand that offers the pentacle is cupped to keep it safe. It represents a seed that is ready to be planted. This ace is the sign that you are ready to invest your time, energy, and resources into building something tangible. This is not something insignificant. This is a foundation to support a better future. It is time to sow the seeds of success. So look for real and measurable opportunities. And we did pull it reversed, but that doesn't necessarily mean
oh my gosh, but that's like everything I've been talking about for the past few weeks. It's so perfect.
Okay, so reverse, it says the Ace of Pentacles reversed could indicate an investment that has gone or is about to go wrong. All contract or commitment may be broken, or it could just be a change of heart. You need to decide if it is worth salvaging or if it is time to cut your losses and walk away. It can also show an unhealthy attachment to material gains to the detriment of spiritual needs. And then I do want to read the upright version, because I feel like just because it's drawn reverse doesn't mean like this is your destiny written in stone. This is going to happen for sure. It is just like, this is a perspective that you should be aware of.
That is interesting though, because we did just go into Mercury retrograde, and that has a lot to do with like not making commitments or commitments going wrong and stuff like that too. Yes.
Okay, so upright, it says the Ace of Pentacles represents solid foundations in whatever area of your life you are querying, a new and stable beginning that will reap long-term rewards. It is time to invest in your future in a very tangible way. This may take time, effort, and energy, but the payoff will be worth it. You can look forward to the resources that you need becoming available. So to me, it's like, you may pull it reversed, and maybe that's something that like you want to be aware of and you want to watch out for, but the reversed definition might be the action that you want to take in order to correct that.
What's so interesting about that, just to tie it in with like what's going on right now, and we are in Taurus season, and it's about like creating stability and creating a foundation for your seeds to grow and blossom from. And I think that that's telling us exactly that. So it's again astrology aligning. We're aligning with all the energies are connected. I love it.
Yes. Okay, what does your book say about the Ace of Pentacles?
Okay, so the major themes that it says is financial opportunity, gift, new start, abundance, and manifestation. So the upright definition is the Ace of Pentacles, like all the other aces of the minor arcana, depicts a magical hand emerging from the cloud. Aces represent a new beginning or opportunity. Ace of Pentacles represents new energy connected to financial and material abundance. So grab this gold coin. The entire suit of Pentacles is connected with physical resources, material goods, and all the things that sustain us on this planet. The hand might be the result of luck or hard work. Make sure to use this opportunity wisely. It takes constant work to create a garden full of your dreams. So do not rely on luck and blessings alone. You must be willing to work and fight for what you want. Which again, you said usually the cards align with each other, and that plays off of the Seven of Cups that we just read.
Most definitely. Really, I feel like they all related pretty well, actually.
And just to read the reversed version of this card, it says that it may suggest that you are too preoccupied with money and missing out on other important things in life. It could also suggest you should avoid making any rushed decisions because it's Mercury retrograde.
First of all.
When Ace of Pentacles is inverted, the coin looks as though it is about to fall out of the magical hand. Now might not be the best time to take any risks, jump into uncertain opportunities, or start something new.
I love that. It's funny because I was going to say before you read that version that it looks like the hands are going to drop the coin when it's upside down. I also have been getting this message the last few days, and I've always believed this, that what you give out, you get back. So I had done a reading a couple days ago myself, and it said that it's time to be generous and it's time to give, not to get back, but to give out the energy that you desire to have reflected back to you.
And it's energies in exchange. You know, money isn't literally money, it's an energetic exchange. So when you give someone money for something, just as an example, you are giving them the energetic equal of what you're paying for. So whether you're getting groceries, you're not losing money, it's just an exchange of energy for food to sustain you. It's all just
energy. Yeah. And I think that, you know, sometimes I'll have the conversation with people like, you know, you give out what you get back, what you give out, and it's always an equal exchange. And they think like they'll take it in a literal material way sometimes, and they're like, well, I have nothing to give. And that's not true. Like we always have something to give, whether that's kindness, a smile, you know, joy, uplifting, support, anything like that is an energy that you are giving out and that you can give out for free.
It's interesting. Going off of that, I'm reading Think and Grow Rich right now, which I know that you talk about a lot. One of the things that I most recently read is like, you know, you're writing down what you want and what you desire to have, but you can't get something for nothing. So you have to really think about what you are going to give in order to receive wealth or money or anything. It doesn't have to be monetary, but what are you going to give, or what are you going to offer in order to get the money? Because you can't get something for nothing. Which is interesting.
I think that the more that we focus on what we want to give and making that into something that is quality to us, the more that we feel worthy of receiving.
And maybe this will be our next episode, but because I know we can go more in depth on this, but we also talk about, you know, the energy of the food that you're, you know,
we have to do
consuming,
an
and
episode.
the clothes that you're wearing, and just more about the energetic exchange for the things that you're doing and giving and receiving and stuff.
Yes. All right.
I think that's a good episode.
Yes.
Before we finish up, I wanted to talk about a little bit more about how I do card pulls. So it's really easy if a card pops out at you and you kind of just know that's the one. But for some reason, that doesn't seem to happen for me. And sometimes I overthink it. I'm like holding the deck and I'm like, what if I don't pull the right one? Like, what if this isn't the one? What, like, and I start to stress myself out about it. But then I like ground myself and I'm like, whatever card is meant to be is the one that you're supposed to get no matter what.
Yep.
But I do find that the card that I'm meant to pull, I get like a sensation of warmth over that card. So I know that that card is the one because I feel that sensation of warmth. So that's one way that I, determine or pull my cards is like, it's just like an energetic thing. I feel the energy coming off that card, like, pull me.
Yes, I love that.
So I don't know. I thought that was an important thing to note too, like when you start pulling for yourself too, and also to not overthink it because it is easy to.
Yeah. I agree. There have been times too where I'm shuffling and I'm like, nothing's coming out. Doesn't it have a message for me? But I think whatever card you get is what you're meant to get. You can't pull the wrong one. Yeah.
Well, that was so much fun.
Yes.
Oh, I love this episode. I hope you guys did too. We just love sharing our tools with you and, our experience with things. And again, we're here to help raise the vibration for us and the world around us and you guys. And we're just so happy to have you listening today.
Thank you so much for being here and helping us raise the frequency. And as always, we love you and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.